Hey, family, it's us, your sisters addressing trauma. God bless, God bless. I know it's been a while, but hey, we're back. Amen. So we're in November, guys, and we want to talk about holiday struggles because they are real. Coming up on the holidays, you know, it's the suicide and just the holiday depression, anxiety, you know, and just
And for them, school is ending and
oh
that
God,
other
yes, yes, finals and things you're cramming for. Okay, well, today we got a full table. God is so good. We got a full table. Yes, there's 5 sisters today. Amen. Right now I have Miss Crystal, Miss Carly, Sister Tammy, my coach, and Miss Donna's back again. Amen. And these ladies are interns with NAMI, which is a mental health program here in San Antonio, which Miss Donna heads. So I gave all of them. I'm gonna let them do the rest. Come on, girls, let's chime in. Miss Donna, want to start and just work
talk
around?
about the girls who you brought.
Absolutely. I have Crystal, who actually is going to be a doctor of occupational therapy.
Oh, wow.
And she's doing her internship with NAMI because there is a strong connection between mental health and occupational therapy. And Crystal, I'll let you kind of like go into detail about that. But we also have Miss Carly, who is a public health major at UTSA, who also is making the connection between mental health and how we at NAMI try to eliminate those barriers to educate people about mental health. And so the both of them have been a blessing to NAMI this past semester, and they're getting ready to graduate. But in this season, you know, right now it is cramming time. It is like down to the wire. So it's like a lot of work is being done by them for their school, on top of being a part of our program and NAMI being intern. So I know right now is a busy season for them, but we're so thankful that they're a part of our program to help us see ourselves, because they truly are the eyes, the community eyes, because they're fresh eyes. They come in with these ideas. They get to give us a really critical feedback. And so a part of their outboarding is to say, this is what I noticed, and this is what possibly you could do better. Have you thought about this? That's the value and the beauty of interns. And that's why I love interns. At every setting, we should be able to see what the community sees. Because when you're in it,
you don't see
you
it.
don't always see
No,
it.
you don't.
And so they get to bring us a fresh perspective. So I really would love for them to talk a little bit about why they're part of NAMI right now. So
all right, you go, Miss Carly. You have the mic.
So right now I'm interning at NAMI, and I'm learning a lot about mental health that I didn't know before. I did not realize that it was as big of an issue as it is, and it affects people no matter what color you are, no matter your age, no matter how good your life may seem. Like, everybody struggles with, you know, some type of mental health, and, you know, some just may have it a little bit more severe than others. But a lot of things that I'm learning right now is like reducing that stigma and making it like it's okay to not have it all together.
Come on. Like, help us out.
It's normal.
Wow.
And I'm learning how to navigate those conversations with, you know, within my job outside of NAMI and my own personal relationships. You know, it's navigating and making myself know, hey, it's okay to not have it all together. It's okay to feel these emotions, and letting other people know that, like, I feel like sometimes people feel like they need to have the freedom to know, like, hey, it's okay that you don't know what to do. You don't know what you're feeling, and giving people that freedom to just be a listening ear. You know, sometimes you don't even need people to give you advice. Sometimes you do, but it's as simple as just learning how to be a listening ear. It's learning to be careful of your language in certain situations. And so I'm learning so much, and I really like it. I like being able to use it in my own life because I feel, and I know me and Crystal have a lot of conversations about, you know, emotional struggles, and relationships with others, and she brings a lot of wisdom that helps me see the bigger picture, and so I'm enjoying it a lot. I like
That's
it.
really
Wow,
cool.
that's cool. Okay, Crystal, come
You
on.
can do it,
You
Crystal.
got
Come
this.
on, girl.
What was the question?
We're just doing a background check right now, okay? Can you give us a background
Before
check
we
on you?
interrogate
Yes,
you.
yes. You'll be cross-examined in a minute, okay?
Okay.
Got it. Okay. Well, the reason I'm at NAMI is because I've always been interested in mental health in my personal life and in my educational life. The school that I'm at right now, it's required to do like some field work in relation to what project you're contributing to get your doctorates. My project is about PTSD
Oh,
and
wow.
how
Wow.
like the clinical perspective of we don't diagnose, but we look at the barriers to what people want to do in life, and usually it's because of something like PTSD or a mental health condition. But what we do is we try to alleviate those barriers and try to increase what we call occupational participation.
Well, that's
And
nice.
so
Wow, that's cool.
so my project, because it's about assessing PTSD and making a bit of like, I like to call it like a mini cookbook of assessments that are available and evidence-based for therapists in the occupational realm. They will have access to, if it goes well, they will have access to like a little tiny guide to help them, like, this person has PTSD. How will I go about making a treatment plan with them and figuring out what goals they want to accomplish? Because in the end, it's always about what the patient wants. It's very patient-centered. If they want to be able to drive again without having an anxiety attack, we will like identify the barriers to why that's happening, and just try to keep a very open mind and just focus on what they want to do. So that's why I'm here.
Okay. Well, thank you. So I have a question with you guys. Age, I'm not going to ask, but being in your early 20s. Am I close? Okay.
She's looking at
Yeah,
you
like, she's looking at me like I'm 19. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't be telling
Yeah,
my
yeah.
age.
Don't, what? I'm not going to tell my age. Are you serious right now? But with you guys being in the age category that you are, how does this help you even with in your personal life or with your friends or maybe little younger siblings that you may have, cousins that are under? And how does this? I mean, do you really get to like use what God gave you through the programs that you're in? How does, you can start first if you want.
Yeah. I'm holding the mic over.
Right.
For me, I feel that it's been helping me navigate those complicated and heavy conversations with my family. My father, he had suffered a lot of trauma in his younger life.
Wow.
And he's older now. He's very much like in his 70s, still cognizant, still very healthy. But what I noticed growing up with him is that he was emotionally not very present, although the love was there and he loved us very much and cared as much as he could. But he was always riddled with, now I know, anxiety and depression. And he definitely does have a complex PTSD, which is the long-lasting form of PTSD.
And what's it called again?
Complex.
Complex.
Mhm.
Can you break that down just a little bit for me?
Sure. Well, with complex PTSD, it means the symptoms related to PTSD are long-term and last a couple years, whereas PTSD is a little bit more short-term, maybe like, I don't want to be incorrect, but I would guess up to like 6 months.
Wow.
Wow.
But my dad has never addressed those core issues that he faced when he was younger. And he he lost a brother at a very young age, and it's he has an amazing story. I wish he would write a book or something.
In due season, I bet it's coming.
But with him, for example, he grew up in Argentina.
Okay.
Argentina is a bit of a trigger for him. He promised himself that he would never go back there again because of all the things he experienced there when he was growing up. And recently, my parents, now that they're older, they can take family trips. So they really wanted to go to Uruguay, and Uruguay is in South America, I believe. That's what they told me. And so is Argentina. And my dad was while my mom was busy just trying to pack and get everything done, my dad, I remember I saw him in the kitchen just kind of like looking a little down, and I was like, hey, like, are you okay? And he was just like, I'm just so nervous about going back there. And I was like, why? You're not going to Argentina. You're going to a completely different place. And he was like, I just, knowing that I'm in the vicinity of in Argentina, like, is enough for me to be really upset.
Wow.
It just takes that little bit to trigger it off, just to even say, I'm going someplace.
Yeah. He was very distraught. And even though I'm the youngest and he sees me as the baby,
You will always be the baby.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're never gonna get rid of that.
It's a blessing and a curse. Yeah.
Right?
I tried breaking from the shackles of being the baby.
Never.
I don't know. I bet you might be the big baby. I'd be the big baby sister. What do I mean when I say that? Yes, she will, because of the information and things that she has. Yes, they're gonna look up to you. You're gonna be looked up to. I'm telling you.
I totally agree with you.
I'm speaking. Family over here. No, you won't.
Oh, okay. There's something right there. We got okay.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
That's up there.
Wow, symptoms okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Would you care to elaborate on some of those, or are you good?
Yeah, sure. I can do my best. So
touched on a few.
trouble regulating emotions, that just would mean that you have difficulty feeling your feelings, basically. And you'll, like my father, for example, in that moment when I saw him, he was having trouble regulating his emotions because he was feeling panic, anxiety, and a lot of fear, because just thinking about going to this place, it was scaring him and it was triggering him very much. Detachment, that's also kind of like where you're not present because you're in your own head a lot. Negative self-perception, that's, usually you have poor self-esteem. You don't think that you're able to do a lot. You have low confidence. With my dad, as a good example, he always would he never expressed those feelings, but I could feel them and I could see them in the way he would behave. Like he would know he was depressed, but he couldn't do anything about it. And back when I was younger, I didn't know what I was looking at. Yeah. So but yeah, that was just like my father's a very good example of this. Difficulty with relationships. It could just be a generational thing, but he can't talk about his feelings very much. And just we'll
go in the house, stay in the house, and you better not say nothing.
Oh yeah. With him,
different school.
So he is actually very affectionate, but he doesn't act affectionate. But I know those things mean a lot to him. So when I remember one time I was gone for a while, and because it was for school, and my school is in Austin and I live here in San Antonio. And what I did was I came home and my dad was like, oh, hey there, stranger. And that's my dad speak for being like, I missed you.
Oh, like, you got to know his lingo.
Oh,
yeah. Okay.
I missed you. Where have you been? I wanted to see you. And I remember I was like, he was expecting me to hug him, but I didn't because I was like, no, like I know you miss me and I want you to show it. So he was sitting on the couch and I was like, stand up, stand up and hug me right now. And he
See, that's what the baby gets to do.
yeah.
See?
And he's always laughing and super embarrassed. He can't look me in the eye, and I'm like, get up and hug me, like it's gonna happen. And then he hugs me, and he kind of just has his arms flat, and then I kind of like pick up his arm, put it over my shoulder, get the other one, put it over my shoulder. I'm like, there, like I have to really force him, even though he wants to. And then I was quiet for a moment and felt his chest kind of rise, almost like he was holding in a laugh. And then I was like, oh man, like I guess he thinks it's funny. But then when I kind of go back and I look at him, his eyes were watering, and he was having trouble expressing how happy he was from me being back home. And he was kind of tearing up, and I was like, oh, Dad, did you miss me? That just make it worse.
Right.
And he's just like, he can't look at me. He just, well, okay. And sometimes I'll tease him and I'll be like, you love me, don't you? You love me. And then he was like, of course I love you. What? But things like that is kind of like, he has, issues expressing himself. He doesn't know how. It's very hard for him.
So in the midst of what you do or what you're learning and, as working with PTSD, it's making your relationship more better, healthier and things.
Yeah.
You can relate, a little bit more on a different level with him now.
Yes, I'd circle back and say that being at NAMI and listening to Rose, our person that answers the warm line, and seeing how she navigates those conversations with people that are very, very difficult. They call, they're already upset or crying and talking about very heavy things. She does such a good job at making them feel heard while also trying to help them and be solution oriented without just being completely empathetic and just like listening, like, I'm very sorry for that. Like it's like, no, I'm very sorry for that, and I have a couple things if you want. I have like resources for you. So with my father, I learned to pretty much like talk to him in that same manner, and I saw like immediate results from
Wow.
making this space for him.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, I felt like no one had ever, even though like he's with my mom and she's always there for him, I felt like he never had that. Someone actually sit in the suffering with him, which is to hold compassion for someone.
Wow.
So I felt like he really just appreciated the gestures, and I tried to make him feel better and work through his emotions about going to Uruguay, and he went and he had fun, and they sent us pictures.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it worked itself out.
It worked itself out.
Wow.
And I made sure with my mom, I was like, if he is too distraught, do you have a way to come back home immediately? And she said, yes, we have backup tickets. We have this and that. Like I have all the bases covered for his mental
health.
Look
at Team Dad. Look at Team Dad.
Yes, exactly.
That is what it's all about. It's having a backup plan. And of course,
I actually wanted to really further what Crystal was saying, because I feel like it's our younger generation that's going to even help our generation and above to connect with our feelings.
Girl,
we grew up, and I'm kind of speaking for your dad in a way, because
yes,
we weren't taught how to really connect with our emotions or feel our feelings, and you challenging lovingly and your dad to help him recognize that I can show that I care, because I was brought up by my grandparents as much as my parents, and so in a lot of ways that's the kind of parent I am to my children, and so I'm picking up on something and being able to apologize,
acknowledging
that I'm wrong,
yes.
or maybe how I learned wasn't the best, and thank you for saying that. Thank you for correcting me on that and saying that. and apologizing when I am wrong. But affection is one that I'm working on too. So you're helping.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, even into my marriage and things of that nature, because not coming from a family that showed a hugged or kissed or played with you, yeah, girl, and especially me being an only child, I didn't have that. I didn't have brothers and sisters to really connect or come here, girl, give me a hug. In those moments, I was always by myself. Yeah, I was always by myself. Yeah.
We have to be consciously aware of what we are doing and listening to you and imagining how, not just seeing it from my dad, but from my own stuff, like Donna said, we have to stay conscious of, we need to be in the moment, stay in the present of what's going on, instead of going back and feeling I can't do this, or I'm grown and I don't have to do all of that, because that's one of the things that we good for, so yeah.
Yes. Okay. So come on, Carly, you're next. So
yeah,
how did you and your family, your cousins, and things of that nature, and doing in what you're doing? Talk about your family, or how's helped you connecting with your friends and stuff.
So, growing up, mental health was never really a thing we talked about. In my household, it was kind of like, if you have feelings, get rid of those. Like, you don't acknowledge your feelings. If you're upset, you need to figure it out on your own, because that's just how the real world is. So, growing up, like, I would hide a lot of my emotions inside, and I wouldn't acknowledge how I was feeling, because you would be told you're wrong, like, you're a problem, you're sensitive. And that was a big thing for me. Like, if I'm upset, I always hear the word sensitive ringing in my head. And so when I transitioned into college, it was like, that is where God really was growing me in so many ways. I went through so many tests, so many battles, and I started going to this Bible study on campus called Delight. And it's an all-girls Bible study, and their biggest core value, I guess you could say, is vulnerability. Like, vulnerability is their thing. And when I first walked in, I didn't know how to be vulnerable. Like, that was never something we did. And so here you have this group of girls from all different backgrounds, from all different stories, and they're just telling you their story. They're telling you what they're walking through. They're telling you what they're struggling with, and you realize, like, oh, they look so pretty and so happy and all this and that, but you realize we all have these scars. And so when I got to Delight, like, each time I would go, the Lord was helping me be more vulnerable with those around me and understand that it's okay. Like, you need to talk about your feelings. You need to acknowledge them. And then, but also having the strength and the guidance to know what to do with those feelings, And so when I got to college, God brought me so many people in my life that I'm so thankful for. They have been people that I can listen, that will listen to me. And I don't have to hide away from those not so pretty parts of me, And it's been a journey. It's a daily journey, but I know that it's been such a great way to grow. It's like being vulnerable with other people, so beautiful. Showing other people the not so pretty parts of you. Like, it's so beautiful. You never know who you're going to help. You never know what guidance can be offered to you. And so it's really been a journey. And I still struggle with this with my family to this day, because I've become able to express the things going on in my mind, or maybe what you said to me hurt my feelings, and like, let's sit down, let's talk about it. And sometimes when you want to approach those situations, you may get dismissed. People may not react the way you want them to. They may not be open to sitting down and have a conversation with you, but you're growing, and I think that that's so important. So, like, for example, I never used to cry. Like, I think it was because, as I was growing up, I would just hide everything inside. And when I got to college, and there were people in my life that got put to listen to me, I mean, not even just people, but being more open with God, like being able to express, all that I'm walking through with God is deep in my relationship with Him. It's not surface level anymore, where it's like, oh, thank you for today. I'm kind of struggling, but it's like, God, this is what I'm going through, and I can't believe that this is happening. Like, it just brings you so closer to Him because it's a relationship, like. So navigating that.
I'm glad I got a question while you're there. You said that you are, now that you're feeling your feelings and things, how is going back home for the holiday going to affect the new person and walking back into that when they saying you're so sensitive and you have the family all around you and all that other stuff? How is that going to be for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think for me, the biggest thing that I feel like God is teaching me in this season is setting boundaries with people. And I have been in a season where I'm learning how to set boundaries and not feeling guilt for that. Like,
wow, that's good.
Yeah, and it's a journey, because it goes back to what I was saying earlier. People may not respect those boundaries. I know it's something me and Crystal were talking about, and she's been helping me like navigate through this journey. But I mean, the reality is, like, nobody else in this world has to live with your decisions except for you, and that's something I'm learning. And it's like, I want to be emotionally aware. I want to be able to acknowledge my feelings and, okay, what are you saying about these things, Lord? Because I want my kids to be, able to do that. I want them to feel like mommy's a safe place to go to. I don't want them to hide things from me. I don't want them to feel like I won't listen to them. So going back to the holidays, like, and just transition from who I was before to who I am now, like, I won't go back to that person, even if people don't accept that, because I know this is the person that God is creating me to be. And the door is always open to have that relationship with other people, but setting those boundaries is really important, and not letting their opinions of me and the ways that I'm choosing to live my life now
get in
the way. Wow, that's good. That's good. You're very wise for your age. And I don't even. Oh yeah, definitely that. Definitely all over you. And in that, saying that, because I was just reading in Philippians 3 where he talks about we want to get to know Christ better. We want to go deeper, but we don't understand that requires the suffering.
It does.
It requires the suffering. And then when we learn what the suffering is, then we're enabled to know what the resurrection is, meaning rising up from the suffering that we went through. You understand what I'm saying? And you being your age, and then you guys' age group, and watching what you going through, or growing, as I say, growing through is amazing. Because I guess being on the college campuses where you guys are, there's a lot. Do you see or encounter a lot of your peers who are in a holiday blues or a holiday struggle right now with the holidays coming up? Do y'all encounter those on the campuses?
And one of the tail on heart is, because it's holiday time, you guys got finals and papers and all of that other stuff coming in at the same time. So how will you guys navigate through all of that?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll speak on that first. So this is my last semester, and yay! And it's coming down to the wire, and it's getting very intense. I'm supposed to graduate December, and just counting down the days, but it's mostly me counting down how much time I have to submit my project and get my things done. So instead of feeling excited, I feel anxious more than anything. But what I try to do is self-care. And for me,
wow, you oh, she said it. She said the key thing: self-care, baby. I care about self.
Now we
very
couldn't say that. We Well, at least let me speak. I could.
Mhm.
That did not
What is that?
resonate in my head to way into.
Mhm.
Oh Lord Jesus, many moons now. Self care. So what do you? What is it?
What does
for
it look
you?
like for you?
I think self care looks very different for every person, right? For me, it's talking to my friends and my family that are very invested in my journey, and they make sure that I'm always feeling supported and that I'm. They encourage me to be better. And with my brother, he's always like, did you do your project today? And I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm so busy. And he was like, okay, well, try to work on it for just a little bit, at least make 10 minutes. And then if you can't do 10, maybe 5. But he's like, just work on it. And it's getting started. That's the hardest part for me. So usually I do take his advice. He's in my head a lot. And I'm like, okay, I did 10 minutes. And then it's not so bad. And I'm like, you know what? I think I can do 10 more minutes. And
Yeah, and then in 10 minutes, you look up here, it's a whole hour and you got a lot done, right?
and that's just all. That is something I couldn't have done without my brother. He always makes me feel safe and supported. And I do have other friends that have graduated from this school as well, and they didn't do the doctorates, but they know how difficult it is. And I go to them for advice too, and they help me look at my paper, and they're like, I think this would look better here, and they're taking the time to do that and help me. And it really helps me to know that I'm not alone, even though I'm the one who's going to school and I'm the one who's doing all this work. I'm not alone. My family is there supporting me.
Wow, that's
every
great.
step of the way,
That's great.
and my
That's
friends.
awesome.
I just get. Can I just say I'm just getting so teary
Oh.
because the two of
Just
you.
okay.
Well, and not only that, I get to see you living your life out loud, and just sitting here thinking, like, I remember what it was like at your age. And did I, with my friends, talk about mental health? No, we didn't. Should we have? Absolutely. And the fact that you're like supporting each other, that's beautiful to me. I'm sitting here, sitting in a place of like, this is how we're going to transform our
Mhm.
the atmosphere.
Mhm,
Our
mhm.
younger generation, you're teaching us. Now I'm just getting comfortable with my girlfriends. We on Saturday went out to celebrate one of their birthdays, and we were sitting around talking, like you guys talk, but we were saying, "Wow, how could it have been different if we at your age would have engaged in these kind of conversations?" You know,
Been a whole lot of different.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So this is beautiful to me. So I'm so glad that you're sharing, because you're also helping the older generations
Yes,
recognize
yes.
how important it is to take care of self. So thank you.
Yes,
So
yes,
I have
yes.
a question for you as the older generation, as the split down the table. How are you going to handle the holidays with this? You sure?
Holidays are always difficult for me because around this time is a lot of loss. Just celebrated my sister's 54th birthday, her heavenly birthday, and it when August, September, October comes around, it's hard because there's a lot of significant loss for me, and so I have to do a lot of self care. And what that looks like is actually reaching out to people. Before, when I was in my 30s, when I was in my 40s, the 40s is around the time when I started opening my mouth, really. But when I was in my 20s and my 30s, I didn't. I use unhealthy ways of dealing,
Right.
and which got me alcoholism. I'll put it that way. And now what I do is I have to do a lot of like journaling, getting stuff out. I'm now into crocheting, which I'm loving that. But I want to take up on more hobbies, because I know in order for me to be mentally well, I can't slack off on my recovery. And so what that means is I have to get up early in the morning and do my morning meditation. If I don't do that, then I'm kind of off. My day is kind of off. Or checking on my folks, checking on my mom, see how she's doing. I have other people who are still living, so I have to ensure that I'm connecting. So I have to get outside of myself. And so I do a lot of service work too. So whenever I am able to volunteer, I volunteer, and I try to get my kids involved in that because I want them to be servant leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So when I feel like I'm stuck, meaning stuck inside myself, I do service work. So that kind of keeps me
Okay.
grounded.
Okay. What?
Oh, picking up where we left off.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
remembered right now. Circling back, you asked if we see that among our peers and our friends, how they handle the holidays around this time.
Yes.
I do have friends who are kind of estranged from their families, and they're just the loveliest ladies, and they're so sweet and empathetic and kind, and it always breaks my heart to see that their families, they don't treat them well because they didn't learn how, or they just choose not to. What I try to do for them is be there for them and just listen. And I have a friend who's getting engaged soon, and she always talks about how her mother just treated her in her childhood, and it's not pretty. Some of the stories I hear, I'm like, I can't believe that happened to you. And with her, she acts very tough, but she's always going to be really hurt. It's like a core wound for her, and that's okay. I also have another friend who is estranged from her father and also like her siblings, and she also had a brother that passed away a couple years ago. So with her, I feel like it's almost worse that she doesn't have anyone. And there's been times where she's come to me, and she's my best friend. I've known her since we were in 6th grade.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And she'll come to me, and she's just like, I don't understand why I have a family, but I doesn't feel like I have a family.
And I think that's why holidays are so traumatic for a lot of people, and cannot put words to what we're saying, because no one never taught them what this is, the mental health piece of it. And when holiday season come around, the majority of people, like you said, it's the alcoholism, the partying and everything else. But for me, it was a lot of the covering up and trying to avoid those things and things like that, and just listen to what you just said. So, like you said, the young folks are going to be the ones who turn this around, because now you can gather together and speak and stuff like that, and you can teach them more so about self-care, especially in the field you get ready to go in.
What I always tell my best friend is that, because I really feel for her and have a lot of compassion for her, because I have a family that I have a good relationship with for the most part, and we love each other very, very much, and I can't imagine where I'd be without them. So I know the love for her family is there, but it's just the relationships are very good for any of them, and so they don't really talk very much or spend time together during like Thanksgiving or Christmas. And she also has she's a single mom, and she has 2 kids that she's raising on her own.
Wow.
And I know that the holidays are hard for them too, because the father is very absent. So I try my best to, I always tell her, I'm really sorry, because it's not fair what happened. And those were just the cards that you were dealt, and it's not fair. But you have me, and I'm your family, and I'm not going anywhere, and I'm never going to leave you. And that's all I can really say to help, because I'm here. I know they're not here, but I am, and I'm trying. And so now she comes over for all of my family's events.
That's what I was going to ask. Did she come over for Thanksgiving?
She comes over for
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, for birthdays, for Christmas, and
That's good.
yeah, so she brings her kids and they have fun because I have a sister who has a niece and a nephew and they're about the same ages and they play with them, and then even my sister, she's like, "Oh, I got these gifts for Jude and Luna and which are her kids."
So they incorporate, yeah, you
And
guys
she
incorporated
really,
her.
and I
Wow.
think it's so sweet because I never asked my sister to do that. She just did it because she was like, I really feel for them because their father's not around.
Well,
And
Wow,
that's
that's
all you
awesome.
can really do. It's the gift of presents.
so young lady, Miss, I'm not going to call you what I was saying earlier. So
Miss Carly.
yes, Miss Carmen. See, I messed my names up one. So how do you like this? What do you think about how holidays and mental health? What does it look like? You can talk from it from a personal perspective or from what you're doing now, a school, from that scholar point of view.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is community. Like, before I came to college, community was not a thing that I knew. Like, I was a very isolated person. And so I would say the biggest
Wait a minute,
thing-
I have one question.
Yeah.
And I want you to finish. When you finish talking, I want you to tell me, and where do you fall in the family? Are you the baby? Or...
I'm the baby.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't do
Okay.
that. Don't do
Okay.
to her.
All right.
But,
Okay.
community, I think that is such a sweet blessing from God. Like, we were created to be with each other, to hold each other, love each other, listen to each other. And so I know when I think about the holidays, like, even like every year, I love my church so much. I love them so much. They're always there for me. But every year that I've gone and it's been Thanksgiving, I always get like 3-4 messages like, "Hey, do you want to come over for Thanksgiving? I don't know if you have a place to go, but we would love to have you." And most of the time I'm back home, and so I have to decline. But just the invitation, like, oh
Just
my
to
gosh,
know that
they're
some-
thinking of me, like they want to invite me into their home. And so I just think having a community is so important. Like, doing life alone is not what God intended. Like,
Right.
God wants us to have community. He wants us to have fellowship with others. And that can mean like just simple things like, let's go to the grocery store together. Let's cook dinner together. Like, just living life with other people. And I know that that can be really hard for some people. It was hard for me because, I'm naturally an introvert. But I think during the holidays, like, allowing yourself to be thrown into community is so important. Like, if somebody is welcoming you, like, take the offer. Like, I was
And
listening
just
to,
don't go for the free food.
yeah, no, go for the fellowship, go for the community, like, learn them as people. Like, you'd be surprised what you learn about people when you just like talk to them. Like, I've been going to my church for about 3 years now, and I was talking to one of the guys on Sunday, just having like small talk, and he told us like, yeah, I'm allergic to onions and garlic. And I'm like, what? Like, it's just like little things like that. Like, I didn't know that about you. I've known you for like 3 years. I didn't know that about you, but I never had, took the time to like sit down and get to know him. So I'd say that's what's important during the holidays, is community.
There you go. There you go. So from the professional point of view, how you feel about holidays and mental health? What does that look like from that point?
And how does in NAMI, what rates do you see suicide and depression, working in NAMI as well?
So, coming from a clinician place, around this time we see an increase in depression. We also see an increase in anxiety, more so depression, because holidays are not always joy filled. And especially when you couple that with traumatic events, like what's going on right now in Israel. And so sometimes people are at odds at a time where it should be like,
And it don't have to be Israel in the house.
right. And so we recognize that people actually sometimes go isolate. When you said community, it's so important. And when you get invited over, there are going to be people who you kind of want to invite, but they go and they just close their door, and they don't have any kind of remindance of holidays, because, or I say holidays, or even, what should be joy-filled times, because for them it's not. And so I love how you said offer, just show support to folks. For those who are clinicians, mental health providers, be ready for those who may be struggling to be to kind of like be that support. But if you're not a mental health provider, guess what? In our Bridges to Care program, we want to increase the awareness, how to be sensitive to people who may be struggling, to be able to read past that, oh, I'm fine kind of response, because you know what, that's what we do.
Yeah, I'm good.
We're good at that.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah,
but
I'm good.
Around this time is most folks, or a lot of folks, are not always fine to be able to read past this. No, really, how are you doing? Because sometimes this is a season that's not always good for folks. I just want to make sure that you're okay. But suicide rates around this time is very, very high. So I tell folks, check on your people. Check on the people that even are always walking around and with a smile on their face. Check on them. And when they don't show up, and when they say they're going to show up, go find out why. Even if they get upset with you, go find out why. Because we know around this time of year, suicidality does go up. So be mindful of that and be aware of that. And especially around the time when there's no school breaks, very important to also check on folks.
I believe that. I had a cousin and he committed suicide Christmas Day. Yeah. Right after opening presents. Yep, and found him in his room strangled. But this was years ago. But just to knowing what I know now, and looking back to just to understand, just to, like you say, call and check on someone, especially those that have lost loved ones at this time of year. As you were speaking of, because the memories, and that's what the enemy uses, memories over us, making us remember the good, and then trying to find a balance of being joyful about it, but at the same time, being weighed down by it as well. So even in that, so like they have things for the veterans with their this time of year for them as well at NAMI?
We do have what's called Homefront. That class hasn't restarted yet. That support group hasn't restarted. But what we do have available to everyone is support groups. So if someone is looking for their community, we do have support groups out there. I do want to make mention, because I kind of was thinking about transition times. Graduating college is a big transition time. It's also time for us to, check on our folks. Because yes, it should be time for celebrating. I'm graduating, but it also can be a very scary time for those who don't know what their future is going to look like after graduation. So I just wanted to kind of like put that out there, so that way we know of people who are graduating, that we're kind of like checking in to see what is your plan, what is your goals for the next year, so that way you'll know if they've already got kind of something lined up, or if you can be a support for them. So just know, ladies, we want to be a part of your goal planning. If you don't even have any idea where you're going to go, because that can be scary, especially when, what do I do now? Because
is that where you are?
My last 2 to 3 years was all school, and now it's not. So I just want to be mindful of that.
Also, if you have time, that you can put out there about their 1-800 NAMI's 1-800 number as well.
Yes.
You can give it out.
Yes. So what we use if there's a crisis, if someone is going through a crisis, we advise them to use the 988. You can text that number or you can call that number. Someone on the other side of that line is trained to handle crisis type of situations. But if it is a life or death situation, please call 911. If someone is communicating that they are about to take their life or someone else's life, that's a 911 call. That is an emergency. But if it's a crisis to where someone is just at a mental health crisis and just needs someone to process some feelings with, 988. There's also a text crisis hotline, 741-741. If you text help, HELP, to that 741-741. And I'd say that for our teenagers, we've got a lot of teenagers who don't like to talk on the phone, but they'll text. So I share that. I share that with my kids. I tell my kids,
What are you guys laughing?
y'all know.
Yeah.
my kids, they could actually have received a call from me, will not answer the phone, but I'll immediately text them and they will reply. I'm like, why did you just pick up the phone? Mom, you know I don't know how to do that. Because they're texters. So there is a text crisis a hotline for people, 741-741. Text the words help to that, and someone would be on the other end to that. We have a warm line at NAMI. It is our main number. If you call that 210-734-3349, I believe I said the number right. I always say it wrong. 210-734-3349 is our warm line. The person that answers that call is someone who has lived experience. We shared about Rose. She has lived experience, and it will help you process what may be confusing thoughts. You don't know what direction to call or go. Call our warm line, and she can help you tease that out. But remember, if it's a emergency, life or death situation, you call 911. All right.
All right. So time is getting ready to wind down. I have one more question. So they say you attend UTSA. So do you see a lot of college kids at your school that stress or talk about suicide around graduation time and exam time? Is it a
Yes, it's a very huge deal. During this time, it can be very hard for a lot of people, and you have exams back to back, and something that I like to ask my friends is like, what are you doing just for yourself, like apart from school? Like, what are you doing? Like, are you going on walks? Are you watching
You asking them
TV?
about self-care?
Yeah, like what are you doing beyond just schoolwork? Because a lot of times people drown themselves in work and can find their identity in that almost, like, or maybe they're not performing the way that they want to. So, I mean, college is definitely like such a stress heavy time. There's so much pressure. There is so much pressure to perform a certain way, like to have the next steps figured out. And sometimes you just have to realize, like, you just have to take it step by step, moment by moment, and give yourself so much grace, because God gives us grace.
Right.
It's okay. And so, yeah, I see it a lot. I think and we have a lot of resources on campus, which I'm thankful for, but it's always something that you have to keep advocating for. You have to keep pushing. And I like what Donna said, you don't have to be a trained professional to let someone know, like, hey, I'm here for you. It's as simple as being like, hey, I was just thinking about you, like sending your friend a text. Hey, I was just thinking about you. How are you doing? How's that situation you were talking about a couple weeks ago? And my favorite word ever is intentional. That is my favorite word. And I think just being so intentional with those around you is so important. It goes a long way. And so that's what I'm
So at your campus, they have a lot of resources as well at the campus where you are?
Yeah, they have a lot of resources. They have a therapist that you have like maybe 1 or 2 free sessions with, and then they recommend you depending on what you're suffering through. They have sometimes they'll do like little events for people to relax during finals, like meditating,
That's
like
cool.
on Zoom or yoga on Zoom. And I think they had a time where they brought puppies to campus, but I never went because I was just so like these things, they don't feel like they're gonna help me, because when I was going through a lot of midterms and finals and practicals and everyone around you is extremely stressed, more than I was, and that just made me more stressed. And so everyone's just stressing.
I can
each other
imagine.
out.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Everyone's just stressing each other out, and for me, a lot of my classmates weren't emotionally healthy people. They were very much like, I need all A's, no exceptions, I need to be perfect, very
That's
much
stress.
perfectionist. And that always, yeah. And
Contagious, yeah.
and I
Wow.
was always like a C's get degrees person, and I'm not gonna work myself to death just because I need to get an A, you know. But these people would kind of judge you if you were like that. They would think you weren't a hard worker, and they would just look at you differently. At least that was what my experience was like in a professional school. But I mean, to people who are going through that, I mean, it's okay to not get 100 all the time. I mean, some people just aren't very good at school. I'm that person, but I'm still very knowledgeable, and I'm personable with people. So there's a lot of pros and cons to that. And I wish I did attend those events, because I think they really would have helped. But I was just in a headspace where I was like, nothing is gonna help me. And to be personal, like I would have like kind of suicidal ideation sometimes, which is, I mean, I don't know if you all know what that means,
Yes.
but yeah. So there was a time where I was I had to do field work, and I was sent to Killeen, Texas, and I basically had to do everything by myself over there, and I didn't have support close to me anymore. And I was stuck in a very hard setting, which was a hand therapy clinic, and I was honestly very, very miserable. It was a mismatch between me and my teacher, and she was very, very critical of every single thing I did, and that was like very bad. I had suicidal ideation. That felt like the only escape. I was like, I can't escape. It's awful. It's an awful feeling. And finally I was able to go home, and I was so much better for it because my parents were there. They came all the way over there and helped me.
Wow.
But suicidal ideation. Community
Yeah.
is very important to avoid
Community.
feeling like you're alone, because you're not alone.
Right, right.
Even if physically you're alone, you're not.
Right. Okay, well, that about does it for Sisters Addressing Trauma today. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to give a shout out, and I'm finna be to everybody right now, giving my mother-in-law a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Deborah Abram. Amen. Yes, her birthday is tomorrow. And I want to give a shout out to her podcast as well, On Assignment. I want to give my brother-in-law a shout out for his Shots magazine that he has in Dallas. Yeah, so I grow. They are my community. Like I said, I was the only child, and they have just really embraced me, and they support me in a lot of things. And I'm just grateful for my in-laws. You never heard that one before, right?
No.
But I'm grateful for my in-laws, because that they are a very good support team with each other. Like, they're gonna have this big old fight. I mean, not fight, but this big thing. Who's gonna call Mama first to wish her happy birthday? And it's so funny because they argue, and then they call my husband the doorstep baby. Y'all, they found you on the doorstep, you know. Yeah, so it's just a great family, but to understand going all back to a community, because when one family member goes through, all of us, you know, it was just a great thing. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank you guys for being on point and when being put on the spot to speak. You just came to observe and got put on spot. And I want to thank you guys. You guys articulated. You guys were awesome. I want to thank y'all again. And I want to thank you for coming. So I'll see you next week after.
No, in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Okay, we'll see you back in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Gonna be a regular.
So go ahead. Yes, you're a regular. Yeah, especially during holiday season, giving coping things and that nature. But you guys, I want to wish you guys the best. And congratulations on your graduation. And you guys are going to be awesome moms, because of what you guys are doing is going to help the next generation that we think is lost because it ain't nobody out
Yeah,
there
we
that,
said that.
yeah, but you guys are very inspirational at your age for others to know that it's okay to pursue this and still own yourself and still be you.
And
Okay.
I'm going to use your word for the rest of the year. Intentional.
Yes, and that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what my
Intentional.
husband's been preaching on, intentionality.
Intentional.
Yes,
Yeah.
intentionality.
I like that. We
Yes.
have to be more intentional in what we do.
So,
Thank you.
so y'all want to say bye? Thank you for watching. Y'all have a great rest of your week. God bless.
Hey, if you are in the city of San Antonio, Texas, I want you to come by B&B Detail Shop. If you need your tires clean, you need your car clean, you need the inside clean, this is the place to be. 1850 East Houston Street. Come on down. We're going to show you love as we love to wash on your car.